What I'm going to give you is the most important thing that I've learned in NLP. I'm handing it over to you in this presentation. I just recently summed this up. It was a conversation I was having with Mark Andreas, Steve Andreas' son, Steve Andreas being my mentor. He didn't think I should include success as a value. Right away, my instinct said, no, that success is a very important value to me. For those of you who might not know what is a value, the way that we're using it here, a value is a generalization about an experience that is important to you. Happiness, I've had happy experiences. I know that I like being happy. I know that I want to have more happy experiences. Therefore, happiness is a value of mine. I also value success. I feel and believe that I am successful as a quality of who I am, and that makes me feel good. That raises my self-esteem. I feel confident about that. And because I believe I am successful, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, I naturally seek out opportunities to be more and more successful. And I was explaining this to Mark. If I didn't value that, I don't know that I'd be as motivated to succeed. I value being a successful person. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And he says, but Damon, there's no such thing as failure. Failure is only feedback. And that's a presupposition in NLP. And I had to think about that for a little bit because he kind of threw a curveball at me. He's right. We use that as a presupposition in NLP. There's no such thing as failure, only feedback. And this is a wonderful presupposition to take on. Some people say, well, do I have to believe that? We never say you have to believe anything in NLP. It is left up to you, to what you want to believe. What NLP does is that we focus on what is useful. What would be a useful belief for you? Is it a useful belief to think of failure as only feedback rather than something that is conclusive? I assure you, take it from me, my own experience, it has been an amazing thing to release myself from this idea that there is anything conclusive about failure. Failure is just feedback. When you fail, you do still get something. You learn something. And what I tell people is the way that I define success now, different than the way I defined it before, is that success is a succession of failures until you get what you want. So failure is a necessary ingredient to success. And what I find so often when I work with people, one-on-one especially, is what's stopping them from taking even the first step toward what it is they want to create in their life is a fear of failure. Now that's real. Fear of success is not. Fear of change is real. In my money journey, I had to realize was I had a very negative way of looking at wealthy people. I generalized all wealthy people to be greedy and people who would step on other people just to make money. This was like a very unconscious kind of hidden belief that I had inside of me. Of course, I was not allowing myself to make money and become wealthy because I feared becoming the very thing that I don't like greedy people. I don't like people who are willing to step on other people to make a dollar. I had to make sure that I dissolved that belief. I knew plenty of people who were very wealthy and were not greedy at all. They were really good people. I had to sort this out for myself. So when it comes to success, you want to make sure that how you're defining success for yourself is not something that is negative to you. Because you could just as easily do that with successful people in your mind. You could just have this overall generalization that successful people are greedy. We have a lot of these beliefs, these presuppositions, these implications that we place on things. So you want to get clear about a lot of this. And I think one of the best things you can do for yourself is understand how you perceive success. What is the scope that defines success? What is the criteria that defines the way that you think about success? Now, here's the thing. Don't start off with how you want to think about it. Really go deep with yourself and ask yourself, what does it really mean to you? Find out what's already there. And when you find out what's already there, then you can say, okay, well, do I like this? Is this the way that I want to be successful? Or am I realizing that when I go deep into this, I realize I have a lot of negative associations to being successful. And that's what's stopping you, because if you become successful, then you have to attach all these negative associations to yourself. And that's not what you want to be. So of course, there's going to be that internal resistance trying to pull you away from that. My discussion with Mark was really about if failure is only feedback, then what is success? Because the way that most people are thinking about success and the way that I thought about it before is what we call something that's digital. It's either or. Either you succeeded at achieving something or you failed. And if that's how you're defining success, it's no surprise you're afraid. It's no surprise that you're afraid to take that first step. It's no surprise that taking the first steps to pull into your life or create in your life what you want is very, very scary, because it'll feel like you're walking a tightrope. Either I fail or I succeed. And then if I fail, what are the implications of that? And if you're still caught in this erroneous concept we call self-worth, then this gets very scary because we feel like every time we fail, or if we fail, now we're lowering our self-worth every time. And most of us feel like we don't have enough of it to begin with. So we feel like we're clinging to what little self-worth we have. And if I go out there and try something and I fail, then what little self-worth I have is going to go down. It is only about how you're thinking about things. There is no such thing as self-worth. There's no way to measure your worth. No matter how many failures or successes you have, your self-worth does not go up or down because there is absolutely no way to measure it. When you are free of that concept of self-worth, and if failure is only feedback, and success is not a destination, is there anything that you would be afraid to try, other than stuff that could actually physically harm you? When you're free of all that, is there anything that would stop you? If you're not afraid of lowering your self-worth, and you also know that there's no possible way to raise it because it doesn't exist, and failure is only feedback, it's not conclusive, we can do all the right stuff. We can take all the right steps, do all the right behaviors, and improve and gain ground and get close to our goals, but sometimes we don't cross that threshold. We don't get the outcome. And we have this way of like erasing everything that we gained or learned or improved on because it's all tied onto that one thing, whether or not I succeed. And if you're doing that, it's time to change because that is not serving you. We want to already be successful. We want to already jump to the end. And when we have to think about doing the work to get there, then the reality sets in that this is going to take a process. And that gets scary because if it's going to take a process and steps, then I start to question, am I going to be able to succeed at this? Am I going to be able to make it there? And then I start questioning and doubting myself. And then that's when I tell myself, well, I just need to learn more about it, right? I need to gather more information because I want to ensure and guarantee that I never fail, that I just go straight to success. And that's just never going to happen. And if it does, then you chose something way too easy, something that really did not challenge you. And what fun is that, right? Why set goals that we know absolutely 100% we can achieve without doing much, right? That's not very fulfilling, is it? So if failure is only feedback, what is success? I want you to think about this a little bit. If there's no such thing as failure, only feedback, then what is a success, or what is success? What does it mean to be successful? How would you align with being a successful person? What would that look like? What would it sound like? What would you be doing? And when you consider that question, you can start to develop or open up or define, however you like to think about this, what success really means to you. And the best way to guide creating what success means for you is to always go to a standard. Usefulness. When people ask me questions about NLP or what's great about NLP, is there a spiritual aspect to NLP? Is there a philosophical aspect to NLP? What about faith? And, they ask me a lot of these questions, and these are wonderful questions that I do like to talk about, like to think about, but outside of NLP. NLP is not about that. That was never its purpose. NLP has always been a technology of what is useful. So what is the most useful definition of success for you? Probably what's not going to work for you or anyone when it comes to defining what success is for you is as an outcome. Because like I said, you don't have complete control over that. We can set out to achieve a goal, achieve an outcome, and there's just going to be factors we don't have control over. We do have control over our behavior though. So there's another hint. So if we're always defining success by the either or, either I succeeded or I didn't, either I crossed the finish line or I didn't, either I crossed the threshold or I didn't, or I achieved it or I didn't, then success becomes this, maybe I can, maybe I can't, because I don't have complete control over making the outcome happen. And this is what makes it scary. So how would you define success in a different way that it wouldn't be scary? That it would be something that as soon as you redefined it, you would be ready to take the first step to getting what you want. How would you need to define success for yourself in such a way that it's extremely motivating and it's extremely exciting just to get going, just to get started? Because if you're defining it in a way that scares you, you're probably not going to go forward with it. If as I'm moving toward an outcome, if I'm experiencing self-esteem more and more as I get there, that tells me I'm aligned with my values and it's working. It's not dependent on the outcome or crossing the finish line or crossing the threshold. Because I'm behaving in alignment with my values, it's natural. I'm feeling good about myself. And because I feel good about myself doing that, I'm motivated to do it. I want to do more of it. But if you don't do it that way and you go pursuing things that you think are going to give you a high self-worth because other people think it would be great or you think it would elevate your status, and you're miserable as you're working toward it, but you're working toward this imaginary promise that when you get there, everything's going to fall into place, the self-worth is going to be there, all these things, and you're not feeling it as you're getting there, expecting that it's suddenly going to rain down on you when you cross that threshold. It's kind of crazy. Like there's no reason to think that just because one day you wake up and that suddenly you're going to get all these things when every step of the way getting there, you weren't experiencing that. There's no reason like you turn a corner and then, the celebration happens and it's all over and there you've arrived and it's all good. It just doesn't work that way. And what's also unfortunate is sometimes people never get to find that out. They never succeed at it, but they're still believing in this equation of self-worth. Then they eventually quit. And why would we quit? Because we're not getting that fulfillment out of it. We're not feeling good about ourselves as we work toward this thing. It's not our behavior that we have to engage in to get to that outcome is not aligned with our values. So eventually we quit. Now, we don't realize why we're quitting. We tell ourselves things like, well, I didn't have enough willpower, or I'm not good enough, or I didn't deserve it. And none of these things are true, but that's the obvious or natural response when you believe this idea about self-worth. Then that's what you do. You say, well, I didn't deserve it, or I wasn't worthy of it. All that I'm telling you about that was exactly how I functioned, and it was exactly why I failed. I didn't feel good even when I succeeded. It's why I fell into my depression. I felt like I was a failure. I felt like I was failing miserably at providing for my family, running a business. I had placed all of these ideas, all rooted in self-worth, all based on these ideas about succeeding or failing. It obviously didn't go well. So how did I change it all? How did I change my thinking about this? Well, everything that you will learn in NLP, like I said, is about usefulness and it's about process, not so much the outcomes. Usefulness and process. NLP is about modeling excellence so that you can replicate it. So what is a useful definition for success for you? Well, no one's going to be able to determine that but you. You're going to create that scope. The most important thing that I learned in NLP that you want to include in how you define success for yourself. Success is a process, not an outcome. Now, I want you to think about that, and I want you to apply that to whatever scope of how you're defining success. And maybe you don't even agree with me because maybe you're really entrenched in the idea of success and it's based on impressing your friends and wowing your parents and you want to show your siblings that you're better than them. If you were to relax all of that and think of how you're going to succeed from this point on is by process, not a destination, crossing the finish line or a threshold. Those things will come when we're engaging the right behaviors. Yes, you will get the accolades. You will eventually win things. But that's not where we want to put our attention, just like that summary representation that I was talking about. I could get the end where I got some confirmation from my father that I was a persistent person, and now I had a sense of like, okay, yeah, that's what now I have a word for what this feeling is. But without the process of how I got to that point where he told me that, I'm missing a huge amount of information. I'm putting my attention in the wrong place. Because when we put our attention on confirmation or outcomes, we're not allowing ourselves to access the good information that we need to get there, first of all. And we tend to judge ourselves very harshly as to whether or not we got it. Oh, I didn't succeed, I failed, I'm a loser. All these negative things that I apply to low self-worth and not succeeding. If success is a process, you can never fail unless you completely give up on your values, unless you completely give up on life. As long as success is a process, all you need to do is behave in alignment with that. Doing behaviors, engaging in behaviors that move you toward what it is that you want. Nate, my business partner, who most of you know, that was something we talked about early on. He had a great way of explaining it. He said, you always have all of the resources you need to take the next step. You might not have all the resources you need to create an outcome. You might not have it right now, but that's okay. You always have all the resources you need to take the next step. And if you don't believe you do, or you don't think you do, you just need to take a smaller step. So what is this describing? This is describing process. But most people, what they want to do is before they even try to succeed, they want to know that they have all the resources to have that outcome. They want to guarantee that they're going to get there. They want to make sure that they've learned enough before they even took the first step, meaning like out of books or research, that they will never fail. There's only one or two ways this is going to happen. You're not going to do anything because why risk it? You'll just keep researching, right? Or you're going to step out and the first time you fail, you're going to feel so bad about yourself, you're probably going to quit. So when you think about this now, that success is not a destination. It is not an outcome. It's a process. How does that change the way you think about the things that you want to be successful at? How does it change the way you feel about being a success? This was the argument that I made to Mark, and he was like, whoa, okay. I'm going to think about that for a little bit. If you define success as a succession of failures until you succeed, until you get what you want, that's a process. And that embraces failure, because failure is not anything conclusive. It's only feedback. I tried something, got some feedback, which was not the outcome I wanted. Now I make the adjustments. So how do I adjust so that I continue forward, taking that learning with me? Because I found out one way that it doesn't work, so I can focus on making it work. And then I just keep going, because that's what a process is. You just keep going. It keeps moving. There's nothing final. There's no conclusion. Even when you do cross thresholds, even when you do get trophies, even when you do get awards, you don't stop there. You keep going. But there are a lot of people who will do that. They work so hard at something and they believe in success as an outcome, not as a process. They win the big award and they never do anything else after that. There's a few reasons for that. One of them being they're so exhausted and they don't want to go through that painful process again. They also are telling themselves, now, because I achieved this, I'm a success. If they try to achieve more, now they risk failing, which then would take that success away. So you wouldn't want to do that. So that's why people stop after they succeed at something. And their potential is now limited. They don't get to really see how far they could take their true potential. And when you're fulfilling your potential, you are experiencing greater and greater fulfillment overall. If success is a conclusion, then I tell myself there's nothing more to do. I succeeded already. It's not how we want to live our lives. As long as we're alive, we have potential to fulfill. Fulfillment comes from being engaged, being alive, challenging myself, finding more and more potential, fulfilling that potential. That is what NLP taught me more than anything else. It's not just about success. Everything is a process. When you think in terms of everything as a process, I'm not going to say you will never feel stuck. That will happen sometimes, but it will be very temporary, because you know it's just a matter of, okay, I have to change something in the process. But nothing feels final or conclusive, and probably until you finally die. And that's okay, because then it won't matter to you anymore. But if everything is a process, then it's just a matter of changing and adjusting my behavior to then move me in a direction to get what I want. Not, oh, here's the roadblock called failure, and I'm just not good enough, or I need more willpower and discipline, which just means you need more tolerance for pain to punish yourself, and that's not going to help you any. When I think of success, I think about it something much bigger than just, did I hit a goal? When I think about that now, it seems so silly to think about success as just achieving a goal. Success for me is about a way of living, about getting what I want, going toward what I want, and the process that it takes to get there. And if I'm not getting there, then how do I adjust the process to get there? How do I make the process more efficient? So it's just a matter of doing that without inserting this idea of self-worth. It's purely what is useful to me. Focusing on success is about focusing on my behaviors and aligning those behaviors with my values. And when I do that, I feel successful. And because I believe I am successful and I am a successful person, my attention goes to how do I make my life better? How do I improve myself? How do I help people around me? And that's just an ongoing, continuous thing that never gets old. I never get tired of it, because it's fulfilling every step of the way, rather than this idea of success like it's a carrot on a stick that I'm going to chase. And if I can catch up to that carrot, then finally I'll be successful. So success is something much bigger to me now. Success is overall, how am I managing the process of my life to fulfill my values? Now, once I put it to Mark like that, he was like, yeah, I can't really argue with that one. That's a good way to think about success. Success incorporates failure. They're not opposites. They are part of the same process. And that will change the way you live. And when you release yourself from only achieving your outcomes and your goals to that's the only time you get to be successful, when you detach from that and you now plug in success as a process, you can start being successful right now. If you like this video on the truth about success, watch this next one on the hidden belief that's been silently sabotaging you for years.